that you can use to do your marketing better. And yep, so this I've already touched upon, and my closing slide is this. I don't know whether you know, it's from the guy called Deming, the guru of quality control, and he said, in God we trust, all others must bring data. Yeah? Okay? So that's the way it is, and that's the way the world is going. I'm sure all of you are aware of that, and you are struggling to come to grips with that, but hey, there is enough there available to help you. All right? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ramesh. Are we going to show the bot is ready? Yeah, we showed the bot. The Manuja's last video presentation is now ready to be shown, is it? We can show it now. How long is it?
It's like 2 minutes.
Yeah, just let's.
Initial part of the bot where the so this is how you get data into their system. The bot asks you the number, but the bot will ask for your address, and the bot remembers both of them. And this is actual AI, right? This is what we wrote for a demonstration, and this is actually AI running in the back end. So now you see the difference between the VIP and the non-VIP customer. So your left-hand side is the VIP, the other person is the non-VIP. I think this technology is like letting me down big time. So now the bot is making the conversation. Bot is asking the questions. Bot is answering the questions. This is not the bot, this is the person who's searching through the offers. So once you have selected, the bot will send you the product or your pizza home. So I hope that you saw it properly. Extremely sorry that it's not working as we expected. But what I want to say is, you can use intelligence, you can use artificial intelligence, you can use algorithms to give your customer that personalized touch. And that's the main point I want to focus on in that bot example also. Thanks.
Thanks. Okay, so with that, we get to the panel discussion component of this session. Again, please do send us your questions through the SMS. Is there a... Okay. So I think first question I'd like to pose to Ajit. Ramesh talked about the data paucity in Asia, but financial industry is one industry where you do collect a lot of our information, right? What do you do with that?
Okay, Kumudu, we all talk about business intelligence, prescriptive analytics, business analytics, and then predictive analytics based on data as well as big data analytics. The million-dollar question is how this will help an organization. First of all, we need to understand how will this help a financial institution, a bank, considering where I come from. In the retail banking sector, which is much more dynamic,
process. With the advancement of computer science, we can surely automate that process. So the chatbot is a result of automating the process using a computer science technique called artificial intelligence.
Okay, great. So Rohan, in terms of London Stock Exchange transacts data on a regular basis, large amounts of data. Do you have you guys moved into this AI chatbot space, or is that an evolution that is going to take place in the future?
Certainly, it's been planned in the organization, and it's something that they're working on currently. For obvious reasons, you can't discuss it in detail. But the pace at which financial transactions, which are in the millions a day, happen, you have to have a structure and a way to disseminate and disintimate and produce some cohesive information. So yes, the answer to that is absolutely most financial organizations wanting to remain competitive will go down that route.
Okay, good. In terms of getting back to Sri Lanka, I think this question is for Ramesh. You mentioned that we don't have data, but now we are talking about AI and chatbots, and chatbots need a lot of data fed into it to start thinking like a human. How do we, especially in a Sri Lankan context, how do we work around the fact that we don't have data, especially in non-financial institutions?
Yeah, I think part of their AI work, it's based on customizing for an individual. That subsumes a certain level of customer data is already available. However, when you're looking at FMCG space, where in a Sri Lankan context, or not just Sri Lanka, a lot of countries in Asia, where we do not have enough data, and that's the past, yeah? Where we do not have enough data, there are specific methodologies, advances in data science that enables you to work with less data, right? So if you read nowadays, as they talk as much as about big data, they also talk a lot about small data, yeah? So it's not just big data, which is a big thing, but even small data, which is a big thing. There are methodologies that are available. One of them is the Bayesian methods, the agent-based models that we talked about, which actually work with less data and actually can bring it to life.
So you don't need those large data sets, you use a sample size to...
No, you don't need. It's not that you don't need large... see, for doing certain kind of things that we talked about, which is specifically return on marketing investment, what traditional methods always worked on is time series data, which means you should have lots more data points. But with an agent-based model which has the built-in learning process, the Bayesian methods, actually you don't need to have the data so frequently. Even with infrequent data available, we can actually work with. Yeah. But so that's the reason why this particular methodology has caught the fancy of quite a few companies in Asia. Yeah. But I think moving forward with the emergence of social as a key driver of marketing in the marketing space, I think data is going to be available in plenty in Asia as well. Because now I guess data is, technology is there. It's not costly anymore.
Yeah,
It's
I guess the challenge is the data is unstructured. There's a lot of
that is
companies are,
correct. Correct.
you know,
Unstructured is the key word there.
yeah,
Even there, I think what has happened is that's where the AI, the machine learning, and things like that comes to play. Yeah. So, for example, if somebody makes a comment on Facebook saying, somebody says something and then they ends it with a no can be construed as a negative, or if the no is followed with a question mark, then it's like a questioning rather than, it's a neutral perspective. So there are finer nuances, and for that you need to have an understanding of consumer, the language, the culture. So that's why I think he was very right when he said data scientists are not people who know mathematics or statistics or business. They should be actually people who know mathematics, statistics, business, and also people.
right.
So that's where the challenge in unstructured data is ensuring that you make sense of it in the right fashion. Otherwise, you can go completely wrong.
Ajit, what about now? This data is definitely a challenge that we face in Sri Lanka and in the Asian context. What other challenges have you guys faced, given that you have the data, but in adapting data science as a key driver for y'all?
Okay. When it's come to the challenges, for me, there are three type of challenges. One is external challenges. The second of is internal challenges. And the last one is challenges are coming from macroeconomic level. So those are the three areas we get challenges. Let me explain a little bit one by one. The external challenges basically coming from our customers. That means we have of the Sampath Bank, even almost all the bank have traditional product. But the customer expectations are changing daily basis. So if you are not following their expectation, if you are not changing your product and services to accommodate those expectations, then there is a gap. This gap comes as issues, challenges, and concerns. So those are the external challenges. And the internally also, the infrastructure is changing, the customer requirements are changing. Based on that, our decision-making process also should be changed. It should be changed daily basis. So that that is also a challenge. The other thing is the operational effectiveness. So we need to change operational aspect as well. We can't have the same operational activities without keep on changing. So that is the internal challenges. The external challenges are coming from like, interest rate changes. Sometimes gold prices are changing. So exchange rate changes. Oil prices are changing. So how we can use technologies to accommodate, to arrest these type of challenges. So for me, three major imperatives that are expected from technologies. The number one is how to increase customer experience. Number two is how to improve operational efficiency. Number three is the most important part, how to increase the profitability of the organization. Those are the three major imperatives that are expected from technology. So how big data can help to improve or meet those imperatives? For example, increase customer experience. So if you know each and every customer insight, definitely we can serve the customer better. So we can increase the customer experience from that. In order to improve operational efficiency, if we can accommodate, if you can inculcate decision-making process in automated level, in the past and in the present, now we take the decision by intuition, by their experience, by their exposure to the relevant professional area. But if you can build a system which can give the decision instantly, so then we can improve our operational efficiency. And the third one is the predictive analysis we can use to predict the future. For example, the interest rate prediction and prediction on gold prices, oil prices. So we need to use business intelligence, predictive analysis to meet those challenges. So that is how we can use technology to improve the banking sector.
Okay. You know, hello? Yeah. What I often find is that, and Manuj, because you mentioned that there is a sexy, bad, and ugly type of data scientist, but what I often find with data scientists is we get lost in the technical modeling
Jargon.
aspect of it. And we get often lost with the technical aspect of it and forget what the business case is, what the outcome is. And for any non-technical person or any C-level person, they are only concerned about the ROI, not about how you do it. How do you foresee that as a challenge? Is that why data science hasn't really taken off in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, it's actually one part of the problem. The other part of the problem is, as I said earlier, so many people calling themselves data scientists. That's the problem. Like, you're bombarded with data scientists. So if you just go and ask a normal analyst also, next day he'll say, I'm a data scientist. So what happens is, people who are not in that domain, who doesn't have the basic skill set, they come and tell organizations that we are going to do this, we can do that. And what happens then is, at the execution level, they can't perform. So once they can't perform and once they are not able to do what they promise, then that relationship fades away. Then you don't trust these people. So I think that's a major concern for all the companies, because the biggest challenge I see is, how do you identify whether this person is actually a data scientist, whether this person knows what he's talking about, when you don't know what he's actually talking about. So that's the challenge. So that is the problem I think a lot of organizations in Sri Lanka and most probably in the world are currently facing. Because how do you find the right person when you don't know who the right person is? That's the question.
Yeah, I think I can add to that, and it's always a problem outside. I mean, I work with companies in the US and in Singapore and things like that. Yeah, what I think is important is to ensure that the person who is the key client-facing contact is actually a business person, and the data scientists actually work in the background. Because data scientists are very thrilled about the models they build and the validity and the fit and stuff like that. They are happy. It's very important to do that. You need to get that, but that's not what the client is seeking. So normally what we have is we have an interface between the client and the data scientist. Because when the client and data scientists start talking, neither will understand what the other is saying, right? So it's better not to let them. So have that client-facing person in between.
Right, good, okay. So I'm going to bundle, there's a bunch of questions here with regards to privacy, so I'm going to bundle all of those kind of together. And maybe ask Rohan about, in the age of all these data and chatbots knowing what we like, should we be concerned about privacy?
I think we should be extremely concerned about privacy. If you look at the number of cases in the US courts and even in European courts, privacy is a very sacred thing. And I think in this part of the world, you don't really have an option of being excluded from a mail out, which is a serious problem because it's invasion of your privacy. So I think we need to be concerned. It needs to be transparent. And any organization collecting your information, personal information, should be held accountable for how they use it. And it should be quite transparent to the clients and the customers.
Anybody else want to add something on the privacy?
I think we are living in a world where there is no more secrecy, right? I mean, you exchange emails, official emails with a new client, and in 2 days, you see that client's name popping up in LinkedIn saying, want to connect. How did LinkedIn ever find out that it was only 2 days back that I first initiated a contact with them? My hardware, my operating system has looked at it, Google has taken it and happily sold it off to LinkedIn. Happily sold it off to LinkedIn. You notice it, and it just keeps coming. I mean, every time you look at a contact request or somebody you'd like to know, LinkedIn, it's a guy who you got in touch in a couple of days back. So I think it is, and unfortunately, I don't know, I think it's rules, regulations, because now from a privacy perspective, a lot of time it is the boxes are already ticked and I'm supposed to untick it if I don't want, right? I give permission to share all my details. That's already been ticked when I sign on something. I'm supposed to look for that and untick it rather than the world where we are supposed to tick it. So I guess I think we are living in that kind of a world now. Yes, it's going to be a challenge. There has to be, it needs to come from the authorities, I guess, part of it. So I guess that's the way we are.
Yes, I was referring to more to an intrusive nature in which some organizations and marketeers try to get into what your personal habits and choices are. I think that should be, as voters and as the public, we should have a way of giving them permission. And if they don't get our permission, they should be heavily fined. There's no other way to stop these guys from otherwise your life is going to be a barrage of material that you really don't want.
Right, true, that's true.
Komudu, I think I presume that you asked the question about the private data, because the data can be categorized broadly in two types. One is the private data and the public data. As a bank, the private data we cannot divulge at any cost. That is belong to that customer itself. But if customers share their information, like his name, it is public. As he said, if he publish something in his Facebook, it is public. So that we only talk about the private data as a privacy of the bank.
Good, so I guess the takeaway there is some data is public, especially if we are going to post our pictures on Facebook. We can't expect that to be private.
Especially if you don't change the settings from public to private or whatever, to friends. because the default is public. You see, Facebook wants you to make it public so they can share. So
Right.
that's the default is public rather than the other way around, right? They should have just said post it to friends. If you want to make it public, do it. But they don't do it.
The
Public is the default.
Default is
So-
public.
So that's the way it works. I mean, unfortunately, that's the reality of today's world.
Good. So I think we talked about Facebook. There was a survey done in 2015 by Social Media Examiner, found that of all marketers globally, that Facebook and LinkedIn are their most important social networks that they're using. And 66% of marketers said they want to increase their usage. But they say they don't know how to. Anyone in the panel want to chime in on how local marketers could effectively use Facebook and LinkedIn as a channel?
Yeah, I think what Facebook is doing, by the way, Facebook doesn't exist in China.
Yeah.
They're not there. So despite that, they're such a big this thing. So what Facebook has done now, I think they have moved social from what is known as earned media to paid media. So now if you want to post your ads, whatever you want to do on Facebook, Facebook controls a lot of things. Who it is, who should it reach, when, how long, how, and they charge you for that. I think it's the outcome of Facebook going public, right? So they have quarterly meetings with analysts and they need to justify income. So they have now moved, yeah? So Facebook is actually become like your media agency, yeah? And social is now becoming like your traditional media. That's unfortunate. That's the outcome of all these things.
I'm going to pick a audience questions, and this is directed at Ajit. Considering banking, credit card fraud, and theft problems faced by consumers, do banks use real-time data analytics to mitigate fraud activities?
Yes, of course. Now, that is a good question, because now the hacking activities, especially cyber crimes, are increasing. It is increasing exponentially. In that case, what are the precautions that we can take as a bank, as a financial sector? Of course, as you suggested, we are already using fraud detection. That has to be improved. That has to be evolved. For example, everyone knows about the virus guard. Sometimes everyone uses virus guard. But every day you have a problem with that. So you need to change the virus guard time to time. Likewise, this fraudulent transaction, the hackers always ahead of us.
So I think that this question is referring to credit card fraud, for example.
Yeah.
If somebody uses the credit card number, is there a mechanism by which on a real-time basis the consumer is alerted?
Yes, that is not actually fraud detection system. So we have a facility for SMS alert. So everyone has a facility for SMS alert. Once you or someone else does a transaction in your account, you will be alerted. But other than that, there is a big science behind the fraud detection system. In that case, we will analyze your behavior. If there is transaction happening other than your behavior, we will be alerting you. For example, most probably, you are doing a transaction in maybe your department store. If you see that you are changing your department store, then you will be alerted. The other thing is, if you are doing transaction in some other country, maybe you are visiting a country very frequently, but if it is a strange transaction coming from a different country, you will be alerted. So that is how we define the rules. Let's say that, as I said, if you are a frequent traveler to a particular country, you will not be alerted. But if you are going in a country that you haven't visited, yes, you will be alerted. But those rules can be decided by the bank. But we need to improve this type of system by introducing a lot of intelligence.
Okay.
So for example, Gmail, anytime you kind of log in to your Gmail account from a device which is not your, let's say, 80-90% of your login, you always get a message saying your account was used to log in from a device which is not where you normally log in from. Yeah, from this, it was at this place and things like
So
that.
there is
So it's like all those systems are being built in, but I guess there's much more can be done.
right.
Some question, so you in,
Yeah.
I can see some, so see some questions.
So, I have it here. So in terms of we have a lot of marketing professionals and ad agency folks here. How do we get them to use data science? What's the pitch? I mean, we've talked about the technology. We know all these things are there, but let me rephrase the question. Have you had success in convincing ad agencies and marketeers to use data science as part of their toolkit? Start with Ramesh.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't use the word data science when I talk to clients. Because finally, what is data science? It is basically solving a business question, right? It's not, I mean, if that's what you need to sell, that you can solve some business questions for them, business issues for them. And then say, okay, we do it through this. So that's the way it has been. And it is, a lot of times I think, and to be fair to them as well, is there is a lot of question marks. How do I trust what you're going to say? Kind of things. So then there are methods we use to overcome those kind of questions.
Manoj, do you have any comments on that? How has adoption been in Sri Lanka? And when I talk about the products, it's really about optimizing marketing spend, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're solving for.
I think if you look at Sri Lanka, it's actually at a very low stage. People really don't understand what data science is, and they don't see the value. I think now it's changing. It's changing more because people are exposed to what data science is, and people are going abroad and coming back, and then they see what is happening in those countries. So it's changing, but unfortunately, currently at this moment, I think it's at a very primitive stage. So it depends also on the organization's maturity. So there are different levels of, how do I say, analytical maturity. So basically, most Sri Lankan companies are at that Excel level, where you use Excel for almost everything. So Excel is like the God. So you go and ask questions also from Excel, so which Microsoft has really understood, and they have given that thing out as Power BI and all
Power
this
BI,
other stuff. But we are still at that basic level. So if you really want to get into the intermediate or the advanced level, you really need to employ data scientists. But the problem is, how can you find these guys? Because data scientist is not an individual. Like, he doesn't have a fixed set of skills. He has computer science, he knows mathematics, he knows business, and he knows how to deal with people also. So how or where do you find these people? I think that's the biggest question the business will face if they really want to get into data, drive their marketing activities through data science. So I think it's a matter of HR actually. So you need to have resource people in the country. So that's why I think when a lot of people who have studied abroad, especially doing a lot of stuff in data science. There are a lot of Sri Lankans who are doing data science actually, not in Sri Lanka but abroad. So when they come back, they have a huge demand.
So maybe Rohan, just with go.
I just like to make a point. Ultimately, the CEO of an organization is going to want to know the ROI. What is this thing going to cost, and what is the return? So I beg to differ with Manjula's point. It's not about data scientists. It's actually about being able to convince the head of the organization or the board that this level of activity is going to actually give them a return greater than what they're going to invest. Okay? And that way, perhaps, you will solve the problem of trying to establish credibility of data scientists or those who are pretending to be data scientists. So I thought I'd just make that point as a consumer of this service.
Absolutely, and maybe the issue is data science ROIs are not short-term ROIs. There are some early wins, but really they are more longer-term ROIs. And that this may not be reflected in a CEO's annual PBT goals.
Some of this work would have very short-term ROIs, meaning at least in a 1 year horizon.
Sorry, say that again?
Just a 1 year horizon, you can actually see the way the model has worked and delivered returns, right? That is definitely possible. But in other cases, it's got a much longer horizon. But that's the CEO's prerogative to ask you this question: what's the ROI of the ROI that you are proposing? Yeah, so that's. But many of them are short term. For example, the one he showed, which is John Smith or whatever versus the other one, if they see in say a 6-month period or a year's 9-month period, John Smith frequency moved from 2 to 3, they have seen the ROI. So some of these projects actually have very good short-term ROIs.
Yeah, and I guess the Target story is a classic case study on ROIs where they tracked teenage girls. And they knew when they were pregnant before the parents did, because pregnant mothers are the most sticky customers in retail. That was data science at its optimal use. Right? So there's a question directed at Rohan. I don't know if this is something that you can answer or not, but why extend data science to detect malpractices in the stock market?
But clearly,
In the global
in the global market, yes, there is quite extensive tracking of transactions by several organizations. So the chances of malpractice is greatly reduced in that environment.
Personalized retail coming up.
Good. So we are moving in the right direction.
Exactly.
Okay, with that, I'd like to thank the panel for engaging in a great discussion. And thank you, audience, for
Isolated niche initiatives taken by financial organizations where by looking at their bigger data, they realize that there is a niche.
There were very interesting questions. Unfortunately, again, due to lack of time, our panel couldn't respond. There are some interesting questions, actually on your model. Say, for example, can I predict my next month's sale, using the model you described? Then also there was another question on B2B. Can your model could be B2B context as well as the online context? Can you just, I'm taking your role for just 1 minute.
Yeah, one is, of course, like if you had noticed, the thing we call it as the JNS, which is looking into the past and the other face is looking into the future. So it is all about predicting the future, yeah. So it can predict, and it can also simulate for you based on, okay, if I have to tweak something, how likely is my future going to be impacted. So it's future prediction is built in as part of it. Don't look at it 20 years. It's more in a 2-year framework, given that two years and at best 3 years is the framework you can look at it. Yeah. Online social, of course, is built in. Though one thing we have realized is we have to be very careful when it comes to social, because in social, what we call vanity metrics are, killing social, right? Likes, click-throughs and things like that. Millions of click-throughs, billions of click-throughs, all are vanity metrics. They are not relevant metrics. Just for the sake of, I got one click-through at like 1/100th of a paisa or something, but it's irrelevant information. So we use all the social media metrics, choose the relevant metrics, and we use that.
Thank you.
And B2B, yes. I mean, as long as there's a buyer and there's a seller, whether it's a B2B or a B2C context, the modeling is pretty much possible.
Thank you about, talking about the likes, collecting likes is the, I believe, first stage, because some companies issue press releases with they pass, 50,000, likes, I think that another interesting area where data is not using is insurance. I think they know if it is take motor insurance, they know my past record. But I have to pay a higher premium because there are other set of people, who are, claiming, who, their insurance, due to very frequent accidents. You mentioned about hyper customization, but that is not happening because I think one of you mentioned, Manuj mentioned, you are a vegetarian, but you still get, deals for meat. I use 3 telcos. I use multiple for purposes. So this morning I got a telephone call from one of these telcos. By the time when I see 3939, I know this is crap, rubbish. They are offering tuition for grade 5 scholarship. Imagine, I'm losing my hair and I'm 55 years old, and they know my NIC card number, they know my job because I have a corporate account, and they are sending me, voice messages, tuition for scholarship, grade 5 scholarship. Maybe that I think I should rethink about my education. One more thing, I would like to remind you that taking the TNS test takes only a couple of minutes, and sorry, a couple of seconds. Do try it out. It is a very interesting exercise, and also, as I mentioned, that winners, there will be raffle draw, and winners will get two winners will get a free workshop on how to use their connected life research. I think to a great extent, we demystified data science and use of data in various enterprise situations with particular interest, with particular focus on marketing, and certain cases on FMCG, and also certain cases on fast food. How real time hyper customization can implement in Sri Lanka. We kept saying since morning, it is not a question of technology, because technology is available. As you said, both Manuja and his partner Sohan returned to Sri Lanka and doing great work. So there are a lot of analytics companies in our own country. I think the problem is probably you service most of the foreign clients, and maybe that you haven't done a good job selling yourself to the local companies. So it is not about the technology. It is not even, say, I know for five years ago, we didn't have the data science capacity. So, but now we have the data science capacity. So I think we should, as marketeers, we are very familiar with data. Marketers don't have data phobia because they use day to day, every day their data. So I think it's another thing is what I would like to congratulate all 4 of you, and try presenting very complex, or rather people assume that this is going to be mathematics heavy, highly complex topic. but they presented in a way that a layman, a non-mathematician can understand. I think that's a great achievement. And Kumudu, you very skillfully moderated your most favorite session post-lunch. And thank you so much for all of you. And please put your hands together and thank our panel. We are taking, I think, 10 minutes break. We'll be starting the final session, the sexiest session, that is on communication at sharp at 4 o'clock. Thank you. Please come back at 4 o'clock. If you, okay, maybe that you can come up, bring that tea, coffee to the table. Thanks, Ramesh. Good job. Thank you. Thank you.